Welcome to the week 3 go-to sessions. This is the third out of 4 sessions that we're holding this month. I will say that this week's quiz is a little bit different. There are only 6 questions. 3 of them are multiple choice. 3 of them require you to come up with answers. So make sure that you either write down the question or take a screenshot, because I try to put it in the most logical order possible, but there will be some going back and forth, multiple choice questions that shouldn't be that difficult, but there are a few open-ended questions. So those will be really difficult to answer unless you've written down the tests appropriately. And I sure hope we don't have a situation like last week where questions were getting flipped around. That was something that happened to other instructors. Like, it just was a glitch on the FSO platform. So let's not hope that that happens. Excuse me while I cover my microphone and cough. Okay, this is titled Peer Review and APA. I should actually have that reversed because we're going to go over APA stuff first. First of all, again, even though your chats will only come to me, how many of you either watched the APA video that I made and sent out, or you looked over that visual PDF pretty carefully? I know someone pointed out to me there's a discrepancy. I guess the cover page on the PDF is a little different than what I was teaching in the video. As long as you followed one of them, you're fine. I'm not going to take off points because, the two things differ, but we're mostly following the same thing. APA keeps updating its rules. I think I have the most current rules, and that PDF is actually outdated, but it could be the opposite. But it looks like a lot of people did. Catherine says she did. Liv says she did. Jason says he did. Okay, so it's pretty easy, right? I mean, easy peasy. It's not difficult stuff. As a matter of fact, we're going to get into the more difficult material this week. It's not terribly difficult. I'm going to try to show examples in real time again. But the stuff that you was taught either in the PDF or in my walkthrough video, like, I think that's easy stuff. And you just, I don't know, you double space, you center. I actually think it's kind of fun. I always love doing those walkthrough videos. I used to do them live during the go-to sessions. And that was always my favorite thing to do because, I don't know, it felt incredibly useful for students because it seemed to mystify students, APA, and as soon as they see it in real time, it's not difficult at all. And hopefully we'll continue that this week. Okay, first though, let's talk about research. Actually, let me switch real quickly to the assignment sheet. I'm going to be bouncing a little bit back and forth this week, so I apologize for that. But here's what we're working on. If you haven't looked at the main activity page, like, this week is really light. Here's week 3, quiz, as usual, your McGraw-Hill module, and then just assignment. Okay? That's it. Week 3 is purposely light. And this is what we're working on, peer review. And in the past, it used to be that when you'd hand in your paper, you would immediately post it to the discussion board, and you'd spend all this week giving each other feedback. We're doing things a little bit differently this month, which is basically by this coming Sunday, you need to copy and paste your essay. That's because you'll be revising your essay. So you'll get feedback from me. You also have to add research to your paper. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss right now. But these elements, revising things that need to be fixed, adding some elements of research, these have to be in place before you paste it to the board on Sunday. And then you'll have until Thursday to respond to at least 2 of your classmates. And we're going to talk about what counts as decent feedback and what doesn't a little bit later in the session. But let's get back to talking about research, because you need to have at least 2 pieces of research. Okay, 2 things that are strengthening your argument or your interpretation for what you just handed in this past Sunday. 1 must come from the Full Sail Library databases. You've all taken DGL, so I'm going to show the databases just in case you've forgotten, but most of you should remember how to get there. Okay, let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. The importance of research. I basically want to talk about what research is and what research isn't. Because sometimes people see that word research, or they see that they need to have at least 2 sources, and students think, oh, I know what that means. I just have to run somewhere and find a stat or find a quote or find something to throw in my paper. Okay? That's how some people look at it. Research is finding something to throw in my paper. But to me, research means joining a discussion, okay, or a conversation. Think about it like this. If you were to attend a dinner party, okay, so we're talking about like a somewhat serious or formal party, not like a keg party, not a wild and crazy rave. No, I mean something that's a little bit more adult and mature. And you see groups of people talking, kind of like the people in this picture, although this isn't a dinner party. This looks like a workplace meeting. Okay, probably you're not going to jump into the conversation immediately without first hearing what's going on. Okay, you're sort of going to hang out at the edges. You're going to eavesdrop. Once you feel comfortable enough with what's being discussed, then you'll participate. To me, that's what research is. Research isn't going out and finding some fact to just throw in your paper, or to find some short quote that really doesn't say very much or add very much just because the assignment is asking for research. No, research means doing more of what you've done already. You've already read one text if you're responding to an article, or if you're interpreting something directly, like the music video. There was a short story, there was a commercial, there was a print ad. Okay, you've already jumped into the conversation somewhat, and that's great, but you need to realize there's been a fuller conversation taking place. If we think about, a lot of you wrote in response to that video game article, okay, which weighs in on the debate of whether video games are art or not. Okay, other people have had that debate. Other people have been writing about it. So why not eavesdrop a little bit and listen to what they've been saying? Because you can draw from it. I actually forgot to put up the Mindy Kaling article that we looked at in week 1. I'm not going to go find it and put it up right now. But if you'll remember from that article, she actually draws upon other sources. She mentions an NPR interview that Kaling did in the first paragraph. Later on, she cites from, I think it's BuzzFeed and Jezebel. Okay, so maybe that's not exactly the New York Times or the New Yorker or the Washington Post. Okay, it's sort of online publications, but at least she's joining the conversation. She's showing that it's not just entirely her viewpoint. And because you're all engaging in a conversation, either directly with a text or an article that's about a subject, it's time for you to sort of jump more fully into this discussion, this conversation. That's what research is about. Okay, and I realize you're busy people. A lot of you have full-time jobs, or you have families, you have children, you have spouses. I realize you cannot devote every second of the day to conducting research, but you should be doing more than just running to find something to throw in your paper. You should be reading, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 articles to find information that makes you smarter. Remember those fancy Greek words we looked at last week? One of them was ethos, which refers to the trust or authority or credibility of the writer. The more you read on a subject, the more you become a mini expert. And the more that you become a mini expert, you can use that mini expertise to sound like a trustworthy, authoritative writer. That's what we're aiming for here. And with that, my big speech, I'm going to take a sip from my Gatorade. So research is like joining a discussion or a conversation, which naturally sets up quiz question number 1. Engaging in research is like participating in a... Okay, anybody who gets this wrong, I don't know what to say. You automatically fail the class. Okay, there's no way you could get that wrong because we just talked about it. The only way you get it wrong is if you don't watch the session and you just try to guess it answers. Excuse me. Okay, we all got that one down. We can move ahead with the tour, and we're moving. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about APA, okay? APA style. So we're talking about style. This woman in this photo has a lot of style. That's not the kind of style we're talking about. We're talking about APA style. A lot of you might be more familiar with MLA. Is there anybody here who's used APA in the past, or is this brand new to everyone? The good news is that APA and MLA, even though they're different, they're both working on the exact same things, okay? The rules are different, but the logic behind both style systems is pretty much the same. It has to do with how to list sources at the end of the paper, how to handle citing something when you quote or refer to a piece of knowledge that came from somewhere else, but you're just doing it directly in the paper. Okay, so every style system has its own unique rules, but it's the same. So I came to Full Sail, for example, having taught MLA all my life. MLA is the bread and butter of English classes. Okay, APA is much more common in psychology, education, some of the social sciences, but I had used MLA all my life. It didn't take me that long to learn APA. It's pretty simple. Okay, APA covers 3 things. First of all, issues of layout and format. This is what I covered in the video, or if you looked at the PDF. Okay, issues of paragraphing, font size, page numbers, headers, okay, all that kind of fun stuff. But there are two other issues that we're going to get in today: in-text citations and the references page. And actually, I'm going to purposely go out of order because I think my next slide deals with citations. I'm actually going to begin with the references page because this is much easier. So let's start with the easy thing. Okay, so if you watched my self-made video, you saw a document that kind of looks like this. Okay, right? It has a cover page. Here, let me make that a little bit bigger. It has a running header, right? It looks one way on page 1, looks a little bit different on page 2. There's a cover page that contains your title, your name, the name of the university. And then on page 2, there's your center title, and then you begin typing your paper. I think I ended my video with a I can't speak today. I can't think with a a message or a command that sort of sounded like this. Okay, once our paper ends, so let's imagine that our paper ends on page 2. We just keep hitting enter until we hit the very first line. Right, Jason? I ended with references. Remember, I said something like go to the very first line of the new page and stop. And we immediately center the word references. It's not in all caps. It's not bolded. It's not italicized. Okay. I think I said in the video, the elegance of APA is that it's one simple, consistent style. And even though to students it sometimes looks boring, and that's why they want to make it look fancier by bolding or italicizing or putting things in giant size fonts. It actually, to my eyes, looks much better when it's like this. It's so clean. It's so consistent. It's so sort of professional. That's APA and MLA, by the way. Okay, but on our references page, we just put the simple word references, not works cited, not bibliography. We don't put a colon after it. We don't do any of that stuff. Just the simple word references. We hit enter once. We go to the left, align left, and we can start listing our references. So what do we put here? We're going to cite the stuff we actually used in our article. So because you need at least one source to come from the Full Sail Library database, let's go there. Okay, this is the main page. You can browse organizations and get to the library that way, but it's also always down here. And once we're in, we go to research databases down below. You should remember all this with DGL. Didn't you have a couple? Well, I'm asking, did you have a couple assignments, even though I know the answer because I've taught DGL. Remember, you have an assignment where you have to look at different websites and evaluate their quality. And I think there are a couple assignments where you have to go to the AP images database to add photos. There's another one where you have to use what's it called? Can't remember it. Not EBSCOhost, but the other big guy. If I scroll down, I'll remember it. LexisNexis, right? You had to go to LexisNexis. For this assignment, I'd say most students, LexisNexis is fine. Yeah, some people have already corrected me. That's LexisNexis for DGL. LexisNexis is fine. LexisNexis tends to turn up lots of newspaper articles, which is fine. EBSCOhost tends to turn up more journals. I like beginning with EBSCOhost. If you want to use LexisNexis, that's fine. And there are lots of, by the way, EBSCOhost is just an umbrella term for all these databases like Academic Search Complete, AP Images, Business Source Complete. But if you click on the first guy here, you can actually just search all of them at once. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So I can select all to search all the databases. Click continue. And this is where I can start. What? Let's try that again. There we go. We're in. Okay, so we have these search fields. And you should fill these boxes. You know, some of you might have much easier topics than others. You'll have to be creative with your search terms. If you just generically put in, I don't know, the title of your paper or the title of your topic, you may not have great results. But I'm sure if we look for something like video games and art, we can probably come up with some decent results. And if anybody wants to message me about their topic, we can try their topic in real time as well. Okay, so we get our results. First thing we need to do is, I see this a lot. People, because they just want to grab the first thing that comes up, even if it's appropriate or not. First of all, that creates a problem because if it's not a great article, then you're just grabbing something that's not very useful. Second of all, like if, for example, this one here, it's not even available, okay? To find something that's available, we need either a PDF file or an HTML file, okay? So to make sure we only get those results, off to the left, we click on full text, and then that will reduce things. You can tell we have 13,000 results, so maybe I should choose better search terms than video games. Art. How about debate? Okay, that gets us down to 31, but maybe we don't really have that great results. Okay. Oh, here's one. Our video games art from the Washington Post. Here's another one. Okay, this one isn't available. Even though I clicked full text, it's not available because we don't have a PDF or HTML. So we're not going to touch that one. Something about Guns N' Roses. I have no idea why that's turning up. Video game worlds. Okay, so maybe we found something interesting. By the way, this might be too limiting. So instead of saying video games, art, and debate, Liv says I'm breaking up. It's probably because it tends to happen when I scroll, so I'll try to remember not to scroll up and down the screen and talk at the same time. That seems to happen. I was saying that maybe this is too limiting, so instead of putting video games, art, and debate, I might put video games, art, and I don't know. This might be a rare case where maybe putting in the topic more directly would work. Or maybe video games as art. Wow, that gives me 56 out. No, I don't like that at all. Okay, let's go back to our. We found one. Okay, we found something. So let's say we. By the way, we have to read it. We don't just find it and say, okay, I'm done. Like, actually, this looks like a terrible article. This doesn't even look like an article. This just looks like somebody posting people's opinions on whether video games are art or not. Okay, so I'm actually kind of striking out here, which is surprising considering this topic should be easy. The art of video games. Okay. I'm just going to choose one, but suffice it to say, you'll have to be a little bit creative. It's actually good that I'm struggling a little bit here because it shows you won't just be able to put in something simple and grab. You'll actually have to play around with the search fields. If anybody else has some suggestions on what I should be looking for, that would produce better results, you can go ahead and suggest it. Okay. Catherine adjusted the date range. Yeah, that's a good trick as well. Let me see if I can go back there. You have this little tool here. Like right now, it's set to look for everything between 1990 and 2015. And even though the question of video games and art does extend back that far, maybe you're looking for more recent publications, so we can slide this bar so that we're just getting things from, let's say, 2009 to 2015. That limits it to 609 results, so it could be a little bit easier to get through. But your other solution would be to just play around with your search terms, okay? And remember, one has to come from the Full Sail Library databases because we want you to know how to use it. The others can come from online, okay? Trusted sources online. So Wikipedia is not a trusted source. Although, does Wikipedia have any value? Can we use Wikipedia for anything? Or should it just always be avoided? Jason says no. Liv says yeah. Okay. Liv says it's a good place to start with. Anybody know? I mean, I hate to tease the answer out of people, especially when you can't see each other's chat messages going up. Brad says Wikipedia does require citations following the citations. Okay, I think you're meaning the stuff that appears at the very end of an entry. Michael says something similar for general resources. Yeah, if you scroll down to the bottom of a Wikipedia page, you can I would say you can kind of tell which Wikipedia entries are better written than others. Like there's some that feel like they were written by people who kind of know what they're talking about, and others feel like they were written by some 12-year-old in his garage. The ones that tend to be better written will have a ton of footnotes at the end. You'll see 30, 40, 50 resources or references, those are great to check out. So it's not that you can't begin with Wikipedia. It's just that quoting Wikipedia directly is not really doing research. Okay, so let's say we love this article. Okay, the art of video. Okay, it's got a cool picture of Donkey Kong. I'm going to teach you a trick. And first of all, you're going to say this sounds like it's going against what you read in the academic honesty quiz. Remember, there was a question about whether citation generators can be trusted if they're 100% accurate, and the answer is no. That's true, but I have no problem with you beginning at the citation generator and then fixing things. So if we look at the right here, you have this little tool called Cite. If I click on it, it will give me the various references. So, for example, we get APA, AMA, MLA. The only difference is we have to fix things. Like, for example, sometimes you'll click on the citation generator, and it loves to put authors' names in all caps. It's not doing that here, but if you see that, that's wrong. Or it loves to put titles in all caps. This is the title of the article. That's wrong too. Or actually, there's another problem with this. APA, the rules for capitalization, is that for article titles, and we're only talking about the references page here, the article title follows standard rules of capitalization. So it's just like a normal sentence. So the A in art, the V in video games, and the G in games would not be capitalized. Okay. Now, someone's name appeared here, like Eminem, or I don't know, a month of the year, the day. Yeah, those would be capitalized because they're proper nouns. As long as we fix things, I'm okay with you grabbing the reference from the citation function. The problem with it is if you don't know how to fix things, then problems are created. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Excuse me. And I'm going to go back to my references page and paste it in. If you're using Microsoft Word, there's this really neat function where you click on this little clipboard, click Match Destination Formatting, and it automatically changes it to the font that we've been using throughout the whole thing. Now I need to go back and fix those things, okay? Lowercase, 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 and we're almost done. We have to do one more thing. We need to add the words retrieved from, and then we go back to our citation. We go back to the menu on the right, and you need to put in the permalink. Okay, it's this little chain link looking symbol. That's the permalink. Okay, just grabbing a URL from up here will get me an error. You don't grab that. You grab the permalink, which pops up right here. And I'm going to copy that over. Have to move my control panel around. There's one final thing I have to do. References follow the opposite rules of indentation. So if we look at a normal paragraph, right, in a paragraph we indent the first line. We don't indent any other lines. On the references page, it's the opposite. Okay, we do not indent the first line, but any lines after the first, we do indent. So I'm going to grab this little guy and move, and move, and move. There we go. Him over. Okay, boom. Easy. Okay. The same thing applies for if we find something online. So if you want to find something from a trusted source online, that's okay. For example, here's an article called The Art of Video Games. There is an author, Abigail Tucker. There's a name of the magazine, Smithsonian. There is a date, March 2012. So I can just start putting this together in real time. So last name, first initials, that's Tucker, Abigail. That was all from 2012. There was a title. What was the title? The Art of Video Games. Okay. The Art of Video Games. Wow, it has the exact same title as the other thing. And this was published in Smithsonian. I don't know if magazine is part of the title or not. I'm just going to put it there just to be careful. And here we will just put the URL because we got it from online. So retrieve from, and here we'll go ahead and grab that URL, copy it, put it in, boom. And you should follow alphabetical order, so J becomes before T. Okay, so we're putting these in alphabetical order. But that's how easy it is. Like real simple. Plus, you have McGraw-Hill readings that also cover this stuff. So if you're ever confused, you can just go over that. I want to check something real quick. I don't think you have it as an asset. Okay, but yeah, the McGraw-Hill readings go over APA. So if you ever have any questions or confusing, just go over that. In addition to this session, okay, I wanted to show one more thing in the database. I want to find an example of something that has a DOI, and if I can't find it, I'll give up. Here's one. Okay, I have no idea if this article is good or not, but it's useful because it looks like it has a DOI number. Okay, this is about Q&A testing in electronic arts. Yeah, it does. Okay, if any of your sources from the Full Sail Library database, so this only applies to the database, nothing you would find online. If it has this DOI number, you've got everything you need. You don't need a permalink. You don't need a retrieve from line. You can just grab this bad. Okay, I lost it. You can just grab it and you're good to go. There's no author for this one. I'd have to look at it more closely. It looks like there isn't. Sometimes that happens, by the way. There's no author. And if you look at the McGraw-Hill readings, it covers that. Okay? So we just need to automate it. Q&A will stay capitalized because that will look awkward in lowercase. But testing will get lowercase. Electronic arts, that will stay capitalized. Any idea why? We're going to leave this capital E, capital A. Anybody want to show off how smart they are? One. Pasting things in. Yeah, Brittany named it and nailed it. And so did Catherine. It's a proper noun, right? That's the name of a company, just like Sony, just like anything. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to move on because this has got to be terribly boring. But there's a references page. It's not that difficult. And if anything, if you have questions, the McGraw-Hill readings will cover it. And then you can also always ask me specifics as well. Okay, so let's get back on track. So we just covered the references page. There's another issue, which is in-text citations. Okay, so this refers to any moments within your paper. Any quotation, fact, or information that comes from research must be cited right there and then. Excuse me. And there are basically two ways to handle this. If you quote something directly, and here I don't have an actual quote, it just says insert quotation. You just have to imagine that there's a quote there. There are two ways to handle this, and this is where students sometimes get confused because the either or option seems awkward. So my first suggestion is to pick one that you like better. Okay, the first one is to name the author in your actual sentence. Okay, so according to Smith, or if you want to put the full name, that's fine too, according to John Smith. And as soon as you mention the author's name in your sentence, you put the year of publication for the article that you're citing or quoting. Then you deliver your quotation. Once the quotation is over, you put either a page or paragraph number. Okay, so one method is to kind of split things up. Author's name, year goes in your sentence, quotation, and then you save the page or paragraph number for the end. It might be easier for you, if this sounds confusing, to go with option 2, which is just save everything for the end. Come up with your own way to introduce the quotation. Okay, a recent study states, quote, then deliver your quotation, and save everything for the end. Author's last name, comma, year of publication, comma, page or paragraph number. Now, why am I saying page or paragraph number? Because if you find something through the Full Sail Library databases, it's probably going to come from a journal and it's going to have a page number. If you find something online, like that Smithsonian article that I found, it probably doesn't have pages. It might be an entire document that you just keep scrolling down to read. In that case, you just have to count the number of paragraphs. And notice the same rule applies to even if you're not quoting something. Okay, anytime you cite something or paraphrase something, even if it's completely in your words, if it's coming from outside information, it needs to be cited. So in this example, this phrase here, American students are underperforming in comparison to their world peers. I made that up, by the way, but I'm pretending that that's a paraphrasing of something that I actually researched. Okay, it's my words entirely, but I would never have come up with that piece of information unless I found it in research. Okay, I still need to cite it. Doesn't matter if you're directly quoting it or not. Anything that comes from research needs to be cited. And the same rules apply. You can either find a way to mention the author's name immediately followed by the year, and then save a page or paragraph number for the end, or just save everything until the very end. Again, if you're confused, maybe you should choose this option. Okay, this is probably the least confusing, whether you're dealing with a quotation or whether you're just paraphrasing and citing, to save everything for the end. Okay, and let's look at an example of this. I should actually highlight the beginning because that's the part I want to draw attention to, not my thesis. By the way, this is for a completely different assignment, so don't pay attention to the content here. Just pay attention to the fact that I begin with quoted information. In 2011, pop star Lady Gaga was paid $167 for 1 million plays of her 2008 hit Poker Face via Spotify. And then immediately, because I don't know this information, I mean, I'm saying it in my own words. I'm not quoting it directly, but I had no idea that she received only $167. Okay, so I immediately cite, give the author's last name, year, and in this case, because it came from an online text, it's only 1 page long, the paragraph number. Now, I could have found a way. Let's see if I can do it real quickly. Come on. Now, I could have found a way to say something like, according to Jefferson, 2011, in 2000, see, but that makes it awkward. So immediately I have to get rid of in 2011. Okay, but it's still important for me to mention 2011. So how do I? So in this case, it's pretty obvious which one I have to go with. It's a little bit awkward to follow the traditional way, and a lot of times that's what's going to happen to you. You'll just be able to tell whether it's, how important is it to give credit to the author within the sentence. How much work is that going to take? I could probably hide things and say pop star Lady Gaga was paid $167 in 2011 for 1 million plays of her 2008 hit Poker Face via Spotify, and then I would just get rid of all this. Okay, so there's the other option. Okay, but I like the other version. So I'm going to get rid of all that. Okay, I think that's how it looked. Does this make sense? By the way, now that you see it in real time, I mean, I think it's a little bit. I'd say the most awkward thing is, you just have to naturally find a way to introduce your quotation or your citation and make sure that you're citing it correctly. That's the thing. And again, the McGraw-Hill readings give you lots of examples, lots of things to look at. But in-text citations are probably the things that students struggle with most, but it's really nothing more than just making sure that you're properly setting things up and citing it when you do so. Okay, so some things to be careful of, just some general tips. First of all, do not photobomb quotations, facts, or statistics. Okay, quotations, research need to be set up. A good way to make sure that you're doing this is to use the sandwich technique. So you're always setting up the quotation, which is like one piece of the bread. You're delivering the quotation, which is like the meat, or if you're a vegetarian, the cheese or the veggies. And then you follow up the quotation with commentary, which is like the other piece of bread. And it's not just a question of setting up the quotation itself or the cited information, but making sure that it fits within the paragraph overall. Okay, so we set up our information and we deliver the information, and then we follow it up with our own commentary. If you don't do that, then the reason why I call it photobombing is, think of what photobombing is, right? It's that social media annoyance where a person either intentionally or unintentionally disrupts the photo, causing chaos. Okay, that's what it feels like when quotations or cited information just comes out of nowhere. It's like I'm reading along, it's like good, 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 and it's boom, a quotation appears. Or surprise, a fact or a statistic appears. Okay, you always have to be setting up your information. If not, yeah, it feels like photobombing. It feels like something has just jumped in the middle of your page and said, hello, surprise. Second, avoid long quotations that speak entirely for you. Okay, you're supposed to be using occasional research to help support your points, not the other way around. Okay, sometimes students find these awesome passages that they feel are better written than they could have ever expressed things. So they just take the whole darn thing and drop it in their paper. The problem is it feels like I'm reading more of that author's ideas and words rather than your own. Plus, quotations over 40 words need to be placed in a special format called block format. It's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. The McGraw-Hill chapters cover how to do this. But chances are you probably shouldn't be using quotations over 40 words anyway. So yeah, be careful of that. We already covered that. Here's quiz question number 2. We just covered it. Dropping in a quotation out of nowhere is similar to what social media, for example, Instagram annoyance. I just mentioned it. When I'm reading along and a quotation appears out of nowhere, it's similar to what? Okay, and we're moving on. We have a couple more quiz questions. Quiz question number 3 and quiz question number 4 are not multiple choice, they're open ended. First of all, go to the Full Sail Library database. Find an article. Okay, find an article that relates to your topic. Because if I don't say that, then some people find articles. I don't know, the war in Iraq or something completely off topic. No. You should be finding an article that relates to your topic, something you think you will be using as support in your paper. Once you find that article, that source, name the title, the author, and the publication name, and then summarize the article's main focus. Okay, give me a gist of what the article is about. So that's quiz question number 3. I'll give you a second to write that down or take a screenshot. Okay, here's quiz question number 4. It relates to quiz question number 3. For that article you just found for quiz question number 3, Brad, no. Quiz question number 4 is asked. Brad asked for quiz question number 3. I'm assuming you want us to cite it in APA format. No, for quiz question number 3, I just want you to find the article, name the title, the author, and publication, and just summarize it for me. Okay, quiz question number 4, I want you to give me an end of the paper reference for the article. Show me that you can follow APA rules for creating a references page. And let me be very clear about that. Okay, I will get back to the question, so don't panic if I get away from it for a second. I'm asking you to create something like this. Okay, I want you to create this sort of entry for whatever article you found. That's all. Some people get confused and they end up copying and pasting the entire references page from the article they found. No, I don't want that. Or they start trying to create in-text citations. No, just create a reference page entry for that article. Okay, we good on quiz question number 4? We can move ahead. Okay. The quiz question is long, but it's basically just create a reference for it. Okay, let's get into the second half of our presentation, which hopefully should go a little bit faster. Peer review. Okay, so by Sunday, you're going to revise whatever you need to revise in your paper, and you're going to add some research. You are then going to copy and paste your revised version of your paper with research to the discussion board. Once you do that, you have until Thursday of next week to respond to at least 2 of your classmates. This is called peer review, so we might as well talk a little bit about it. And let's begin with a question. What do you expect from your classmates? Okay, first of all, have people participated in peer review in the past? Maybe you've done it in a real live college classroom. Oftentimes the teacher puts you into pairs or groups of 3 or 4, and you exchange papers and you read it there, and either you just note things directly on the paper or your teacher has a set of questions for you to go through and answer. Brittany says she has. Okay, I'm guessing some other people have as well. Peer review is incredibly valuable, but I know as an instructor who's done it a lot of times in the past, it's a little bit rough when you do it in real time in a classroom, because there are some students who are into it, but a lot of students, it's the last thing they want to be doing, and I get that. Like if I come into a classroom, it's not the most thrilling thing in the world to just sit down and read and respond to papers. This is actually one of the activities I think works better in the online environment, because since you'll have, Sunday through Thursday to respond to at least 2 of your classmates' papers, you can do things like read it and then let it simmer in your brain before you come back to it and respond. Or if you're just in a bad mood, you can come back to the following morning. Um, or, you can start work on something, save your comments in Microsoft Word, and if you're hungry, go get a burrito, and then come back and finish. Okay, you have the time and space to really to do things appropriately. Nobody's sort of chaining you to a desk and saying you must do this within the next 45 minutes. So that's one of the things that I like. But we need to talk about peer review, like what kind of feedback is not helpful. I know it's awkward because we can't see each other's chat comments, but just using common sense, what kind of feedback has not been terribly helpful in the past? You can think about experiences you've had in other classes or things you've seen here at Full Sail, since discussion boards are common. What sort of stuff is not helpful? What sort of stuff makes you look like the woman in this photo with the classic face palm gesture? Brittany says vague criticism. Okay, good. So lack of specificity, right? Brad says simply the quotes, I disagree. I'm not sure what Brad means by that. He might be saying something that Michael just wrote to me, negative, unrelated feedback. Yeah, where people just disagree. I mean, it's a difficult thing. First of all, if you feel that someone is really, really off, like the thinking just seems incredibly wrong, but so wrong that you feel like it needs to be pointed out nicely, I think that's one thing. But yeah, I think what Brad and Michael have said to me when with their comments, I disagree, or negative, unrelated feedback, is that it can sometimes become off topic. Like, we all have different viewpoints, we all have different interpretive stances, we all have different ways to respond to a text, and if we get caught up in just pure opinion, that's not really helping the writer. So yes, if the writer is terribly off base and you think that their arguments are actually being hurt by being incorrect, then yeah, I think there's a polite way to put that out. Otherwise, I mean, it's their paper, not ours. So that's one piece of advice I would give. That remember, we're responding to the writing first and foremost. Okay, we're trying to check to see if each other's work is fulfilling the goals and requirements of this class. We're not getting into an engagement because someone made some comments about a video game and we disagree and we just turn it into a video game discussion, or someone makes some comments about music. I already talked to some people about the article from the New Yorker about who is the realist, right? It's about realism and hip hop. Like Iggy Azalea features pretty prominently in that article. Like I don't want to see people getting into a war over Iggy Azalea. I mean, when people get off topic and sort of get caught up in that kind of stuff, that's not terribly useful. Let's see. Brad said generic feedback that doesn't really contribute to the conversation. Okay, good. Jason says criticism that isn't constructive. Okay, good. Liz said something similar, unconstructive feedback. Okay, great. Yeah, I think I'm hearing the classic things. So vagueness or lack of specificity. So that could mean someone just saying, I was confused in paragraph 3, but you're not clear about what it was in paragraph 3 that confused you. Off-topic things that seem sort of negative that aren't really contributing. Just lack of constructive feedback. Okay, yeah, these are sorts of things that people don't like. Something that hasn't been mentioned is just obsession over like really, really tiny stuff rather than big picture concepts. Like if your paper needs some sort of more global revision and the person is just harping on, oh, you misspelled this word here and you forgot a comma there. Yeah, Brittany calls them grammar Nazis. Right. Like that can be annoying. So what kind of feedback is helpful? Well, obviously the complete opposite of everything we've just said, right? Feedback that is specific, feedback that is helpful, feedback that does focus on the person's writing, not just getting caught up in some, I don't know, some aspect of the topic. Feedback that focuses more on global issues than kind of smaller nitpicky issues. All that stuff makes you look like the very, very happy people, the shiny happy people in this photo. Which leads me into this framework. I like to think of feedback as falling into two broad categories: higher order concerns and lower order concerns. Higher order concerns are the big stuff. Things like thesis, having a claim, having a thesis, having a single sentence or two that ends the introduction that is engaging, either with the article that the student has read or the direct thing itself, the music video, the short story, the commercial, the print ad. If that thesis or claim, you still can't see it, the student probably needs to hear about that. Same thing with content organization. These are higher order concerns. Remember, we've been focusing on this stuff all along. You should have a claim or a thesis, a very specific thing you are saying about the thing that you examined, whether it's an article or whether it's a direct piece of art. You should have 3 reasons to support, probably 1 paragraph for each of those reasons. That's organization. Content, okay? That what's filling those paragraphs matches what's supposed to be in them. Okay, these are the more important issues. If we notice things that are problematic here, they need to be pointed out. On the right hand side are lower order concerns, and it's just like it sounds. It's all the smaller stuff: grammar, sentence structure, proofreading, style. It's not that this isn't important, and it's not that you can't make a comment here or there if you notice something that's going on. It's just that for papers, well, papers in general, but especially papers that maybe are in rougher shape, typically the advice is more over here than over here. But yeah, feel free to make some lower order concerns. Just remember that that's sort of lesser importance. Um, and I think this leads into my next quiz question. Michael says it needs to be a glaring problem with low order concerns. Yeah, it should be a pattern of error, or if you notice someone who's just consistently speaking in text speak or is avoiding using apostrophes and contractions, you could say real quickly, like, hey, watch out, or be sure to proofread, something like that. I'm usually pretty good with grammar too, so that's another reason why you should mostly focus over here, because I'll be commenting on these matters when I write my feedback. Actually, the quiz question comes in just a few moments. Okay, I also have 3 general feedback tips. One is to be positive. Okay, it's difficult to strike the appropriate tone when we're writing to one another. So we're trying to help each other out. By the way, when I say be positive, I don't mean be disingenuous. Okay, it doesn't mean we can't. We're big boys and girls. Okay, we can take criticism. At least I hope that we can. I do notice a sort of fear or timidity, that's a better word, when it comes to peer review, because nobody wants to risk saying things directly. Nobody wants to risk. But as long as you're being positive and you're trying to give constructive feedback, I don't think that's a problem. But yeah, we want to avoid just, here's the point. We want to avoid being generically positive, just saying, oh, great job, good work, or it looks great to me, or I would give it an A if I were the instructor. Like, that's not terribly helpful. So this is our chance. Put yourself out there. Again, we're big boys and girls, so if the reader doesn't agree with something that you've said, they can always just throw it aside. And that goes for the teacher as well. I would hope that you would look at my advice a couple times before you throw it aside. But yeah, if you strongly disagree with something, you can always make that decision for yourself as a writer. But as readers, that doesn't mean we don't give comments. It doesn't mean we don't give honest feedback. So I think there's a way to be positive, but also honest. So for those of you, when you're responding to 2 of your classmates' posts, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Okay, if you notice something that just seems off or is a concern for you, or we've been talking about this assignment for weeks now. So some of you I'm not trying to divide the class into different groups, but those of you who seem to be comfortable with the material, challenge yourself, help out your fellow students, help them see where they're getting off track, if they are. Brittany says follow criticism with a good thing that they did. Yeah, I think that's a good technique too. And I actually didn't think of that, but that's actually probably pretty smart advice, that you try to balance some positive and negative feedback. I try to do it in my feedback as well. I'm always reading my feedback to you at the last second and making sure that it's not too harsh, or making sure that it's not too one-sided or the other. So yeah, making sure that you balance criticism with things that are working well is probably pretty important. Second of all, be specific. Okay. Being vague isn't very helpful. I mean, the problem with saying good job or thumbs up is not only is it just sometimes insincere, but it's not very specific. So the writer doesn't know what specifically is working well. Writer isn't told, hey, that introduction is fantastic. It really grabbed my attention. Or I think paragraph 2 was your strongest because it really had powerful, specific information. Same thing if we're pointing out things that could be improved. We need to explain why the introduction isn't very powerful. We need to explain why a certain paragraph isn't working. And you can try to use your own language. I know that maybe you're not as comfortable with certain terms as I am as the instructor, but still, I think there's a way to feelingly point out specifically what your concern is or what you think is working well. Feedback tip number 3. When offering criticism, use softeners and qualifiers. Okay, that's why I have these little pillows that spell out the word love. There's a difference between writing you do on the screen and communication that takes place face to face. Okay, for those of you who are on campus, you know, if you come to visit me during office hours, like we could have a much different conversation. I could be maybe much more direct, much more frank, because you'd see by the tone of my voice, by the way that I smile, or the way that I joke, or the way that I laugh, that my words aren't really they're backed up by these nonverbal gestures, right? But when you just see words on a screen, those nonverbal gestures aren't there. We try to use sometimes emoticons to have the same meaning, but even emoticons could get you in trouble. Have you ever gotten a smiley face, but you don't take it as positive? You think the person is just being insincere with the emoticon? But in theory, the emoticons are supposed to be functioning as nonverbal communication. But there's a simpler way than just using emoticons, which is, just to soften and qualify what you say. If you haven't noticed, I do this all the time. I'm always saying, oh, I was a bit confused, or I was a little bit unsure, and I'm not being insincere. I'm conscious of the fact that if I just say I was confused or this puzzled me, that might sound harsh and direct. Okay, so we soften what we say. It's like using a cushion. Again, it doesn't mean that we're trying to be super nice. It doesn't mean that we're avoiding direct commentary or direct advice or concrete suggestions for improvement. It just means we're a little bit aware that if we don't use softeners or qualifiers, it can come across much harsher than we ever intended. Okay. So the final 2 quiz questions. Quiz question number 5. What are higher order concerns versus lower order concerns? This is an open answer question, so you'll have to answer, in your own language, what that means. We had a couple slides ago, we just went over it. It shouldn't be that terribly difficult. And quiz question number 6. What are those 3 tips for giving feedback? This is multiple choice, so it should be easy to spot which one is the right answer, okay? So actually, if I think about it, the first 2 questions I believe are multiple choice, and then you get 3 that are open-ended, and then it ends with a multiple choice. And real quickly, I don't even think I have it anymore. Let me close the 10 million windows I have open. iTunes, messages. No, I don't have it. I'm sorry, I was looking for one more example of in-text citations I have. Maybe it's in here. If I can't find it, I'll quit. Classroom week 2. It might be in this one. Okay, yeah. Let me just give one more quick example. That's not the one I wanted. Here's a good example of the sandwich technique for citations. I'm not going to read this entire paragraph out loud. This is just a generic paragraph on pizza. Okay, it's an outstanding pizza must include fresh, high-quality toppings, and then it goes on to list what that means. But the part I've highlighted here is a good example of how, like, the quotation, and I do deliver a quotation here, fits within the overall paragraph. So if we look at the sentence it comes before, we're talking about using high quality fresh ingredients. It says it, meaning using high quality ingredients, also improves the healthiness of pizza, as pizza is too often viewed as junk food in the United States. As one article noted, pizza contains good stuff like carbs, calcium, and vitamins and minerals. What you add to your pizza can make a big difference in how you look and feel. And then I follow that quotation with commentary. If pizza does indeed contain good stuff, then using quality ingredients can make that good stuff even better. Okay, so it's not just a matter of setting up the quotation with something like as one article noted or as Smith 2008 stated. Okay, it's also making sure that whatever you quote or cite fits within the vision of the overall paragraph. That's what I was talking about when I say that if you don't do a good job with this, the stuff that's here in blue can feel like it's photobombed, that it's just dropped in out of nowhere. If we're just reading along and then suddenly, boom, a quotation appears, it will seem kind of shocking. It needs to be set up on its own, but it also needs to fit comfortably within the paragraph that it's a part of. Okay, not sure that was worth all that extra effort to find. I'm done with you. Questions? Preguntas. Okay, we went over a lot of stuff. I actually kind of raced through the second half because I looked at the clock and thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go way over the hour time. But I hope the peer review stuff made sense. I kind of flew through it. Someone will see quiz question number 1. Engaging in research is like participating in a blank. I'm not seeing questions flying for me on the board. So if you're comfortable with what we've gone over, you are free to go enjoy the rest of your nights. Thanks so much. Brad is asking Cavs or Warriors. You know what? I don't care about. I love football, college football, and I love baseball, but I do not pay any attention to the NBA. So I don't know. The Warriors, I guess. I have no reason to say that. I could care less about Cleveland or Golden State. Jason Spender says high order concerns and lower order concerns. Is that a question? Hurricanes or Gators in the in the college? I guess you're meaning. Oh, you mean the College World Series that's going on now? I don't know. I should have said that it's college football that I like and Major League Baseball more than college baseball. So I don't know. I guess I have to go with the Gators, right? I live in Florida now, so. You don't know? You didn't see the slide on higher order concerns and lower order concerns, Jason? I'm going to show it for like 2 seconds because the whole point of this session is that hopefully you should have gotten. Okay, but again, if people are comfortable with what we went over, we mostly went over APA, the references page, in-text citations, and then peer review. So if you're pretty comfortable in what needs to be done this week, you're free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to hang out a little bit and answer questions. Okay. Yeah, I abbreviated those, Jason. I assume most people know what HOC and LOC stand for, especially since I said it out loud. Michael says, could you see question number 3 again? That's 1. Where's the 4? There's 3. 3 is just basically you need to go to the Full Sail Library database and find an article that relates to your paper. Once you do, name the title, the author, and the name of the publication, and briefly summarize the article. Okay, are we all good, people? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now.